Well, ladies and gentlemen, would it be a brand new year if we didn't start off with having a rumor about Kathleen Kennedy leaving Lucasfilm? In 2024 alone, we had about 5 or 6 rumors show up probably of Kathleen Kennedy leaving, and now it's in 2025 and we're having our first one. But everybody swears that this one is the truth and that Kathleen Kennedy is reportedly going to be leaving Lucasfilm by the end of 2025. And like I said so many times before, Kathleen Kennedy was not going to get fired. Kathleen Kennedy was not going to get let go by Disney. Kathleen Kennedy was going to leave on her own and she was going to retire. That's the only way that she was ever going to leave Disney and Lucasfilm. And it looks like, according to this rumor, that is the truth. So let's get into this article, guys, from That Park Place. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. Now, again, just to be very clear, if Kathleen Kennedy leaves Disney and she leaves Lucasfilm, that doesn't mean that suddenly Star Wars is saved. I want people to understand that Star Wars is where it's at right now and dead at where it's at right now, not just because of Kathleen Kennedy. It's the entirety of Disney as a whole and their ideology that has offed Star Wars into the, irrelevant sector that it's in right now. And it's quite unfortunate considering that Star Wars is an IP that honestly should have just been able to print money. It used to be able to print money no problem. It was an insane IP that the moment it touched anything, it would print money for fucking years. But apparently, that's just no longer the case anymore, especially after the recent TV shows, one of which didn't even manage to get on the Nielsen ratings for the first time in I don't even know how long. So it says Kathleen Kennedy reportedly leaving Lucasfilm sometime this year, according to Hollywood Trade. After more than a decade at the helm of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy is reportedly preparing to retire, leaving Lucasfilm by the end of 2025. According to a recent report by Puck. Now, I went to the Puck website, okay, because I'm curious as to who broke this rumor. And the Puck website has this article available, but of course, in order to read it, you need to give them access to your information and start some sort of a paid trial for 14 days or whatever the case may be. So I'm just saying, this rumor was broken by Puck, and it looks like they're breaking this to try to garner some sort of subscriptions for whatever reason that may be. Think of that for whatever you may be. Think of that. I'm just saying it's a little bit sus to me because I'm tired of these Kathleen Kennedy rumors. But again, every time they pop up, we got to talk about it. So it says, yet as fans rejoice over the potential end of what many view as a disastrous tenure, there's a harsh truth that must be acknowledged. Kathleen Kennedy may be leaving Lucasfilm, but the damage she inflicted on Star Wars will linger for years to come. And that's what I'm saying, man. Star Wars, I really dislike that people think that Star Wars will be saved just because Kathleen Kennedy is out. Do you guys realize that Kathleen Kennedy has been training her replacement for I don't even know how long now? It's been said since last year or even the year before that Kathleen Kennedy was training her replacement already. They were training her or him, or I think it's a him. I'm pretty sure it's a guy. They've been training the person for years now. And they've been working under Kathleen Kennedy for years now. So if you think by removing Kathleen Kennedy that Star Wars is going to be saved, it's not, because whoever is taking Kathleen Kennedy's place is going to be just as bad as she is, if not probably worse, to be honest with you. Kathleen Kennedy, I've always said, is the Hillary Clinton of the entertainment industry, where she must have so much dirt on whoever she works with that nobody wanted to get rid of her. Nobody wanted to touch her. Nobody even wanted to remotely bring up her name to remove her from her position, even though she was running Star Wars into the ground. Anybody can look at the products that she was putting out there with Lucasfilm and understand that Star Wars was being ran into the freaking dirt by this woman. But nobody wanted to save it. Nobody wanted to jump in. Nobody even wanted to even mention her name, because I'm pretty sure she has so much dirt on these people that she works with that she could get all of them probably locked up or fired at this point. So when Disney purchased Lucasfilm in 2012, for $4 billion, Star Wars was the most valuable and evergreen franchise in cinematic history. I agree, which again, if you ask people what is their favorite part of Star Wars, or if they're even a Star Wars fan, 99.9% of the time, they're going to mention something from the original trilogy, whether it's a character or a scene or something along those lines. Most Star Wars fans are fans because of the original content. They're not fans because of the new content. Nobody is a fan because of the stuff that's coming out right now. Very few people. And if they are, let's say they were exposed to Star Wars recently because of something that was on Disney, what they end up doing is they go down a rabbit hole and they start buying up content related to Star Wars. And the content they buy is the old stuff. And then before you know it, the people who became fans because of the new stuff suddenly are fans of the old stuff, and their favorite characters are characters from the old stuff. You know what I mean? So this is not something that is being utilized now in modern day to do anything other than push people into the old stuff or push people away who were fans of the older Star Wars. So it says Star Wars was the most valuable and evergreen franchise. It had defined generations, inspired countless stories, and built a cultural legacy that seemed unshakable. Enter Kathleen Kennedy, a producer with a storied past, working alongside Hollywood legends like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas himself, tasked with steering the franchise into its next golden era. Instead, she drove it off of a cliff, which is so true. That is so true. The decline began almost immediately with the sequel trilogy, a mess of inconsistent storytelling and clashing creative visions centered around an unlikable and unremarkable protagonist. Rather than mapping out a cohesive plan, as Marvel had done with the cinematic universe, Kennedy handed full creative control to J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson, allowing them to craft their respective films, The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, without any overarching roadmap. The result? A narrative disaster. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, the sad thing is that even though the MCU had a great overarching story in its first 10 years, that basically fell apart once they started doing what Lucasfilm was doing for the years prior, where they just started doing whatever the hell they wanted to do, and they had different producers, different writers, different everything, not understanding the cohesive story that was being told anymore. Once Infinity Wars ended, that was basically it. You know, Endgame was literally the end game, and at that point, things would change up so much, and MCU kind of fell apart. The same thing happened with Star Wars, except it happened from the beginning. The new sequel trilogy that came out, people lambasted it. People hated it. A lot of people were like, what the hell is this? Why is Star Wars doing this? And then after enough rabbit hole diving and enough answers from Disney, that you started to realize that DEI was at the forefront of everything they did. And they started to be one of those companies that wanted to lead the way. They wanted to spearhead the entire nonsense that we are dealing with today in current entertainment, whether it's gaming and movies and whatnot. They are the ones who essentially were pretty much not the arbiters, but damn near close to being so. Then Abrams introduced a slate of mysteries in The Force Awakens, from Rey's parentage to Supreme Leader Snoke's origins, without any answers. Rian Johnson then took a contrarian approach in The Last Jedi, subverting expectations for the sake of shock value, unraveling many of Abrams' plot threads and further dividing an already skeptical fan base. By the time Abrams returned to try and salvage the story with The Rise of Skywalker, the franchise was in disarray. The final film tried desperately to patch up the narrative gaps, but instead became an incoherent mess, ultimately the lowest grossing entry in the trilogy, period. Now, the funny thing is, when Star Wars first came out with the new trilogy, the first movie made a lot of money, right? I think it was over $2 billion because people were still excited for Star Wars. Then what ended up happening is, as the trilogy went on, it went from over $2 billion in the first movie, to slightly over $1 billion by the end of the third movie. It lost $1 billion. That is insane. It lost half of its revenue in the third film. That's how many people were checked out of Star Wars by the time the third movie came out. It's even worse when you factor in the TV shows now, where people are checking out more and more and more from the TV shows because the shows keep getting less and less viewership. The latest TV show that came out, The Skeleton Crew or whatever it was, that didn't even touch the Nielsen ratings. It didn't even chart on the Nielsen ratings when it came out. That's how bad these shows are doing now. So it's pretty clear that a lot of fans are checking out of Star Wars. And of course, Star Wars still has its diehard people. But a lot of the people that are diehard to this franchise are diehard because of the old content. And they're hoping and praying and thinking that maybe one day it'll go back to what it was. We're just hoping. We're just hanging on. But these guys are so stubborn, they don't realize the old days are never coming back. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I will greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.